Libra Ascendant, Libra Rising, this is G with your 2020 July, rest of July. Five things, Libra, they're going to help you navigate the waters of this month, the waters of your life, your desire, your drive, your ambition, all of the new ideas, the new things you've been rethinking while Mercury was in retrograde. This all happened in your 10th house. Your career, your goals, your ambitions, how you want to show up in the world, how you express your best. You've been rethinking this because Mercury has been retrograding in your Cancer waters. This is all your 10th house. Your 10th house is where your emotions is where your divine feminine energy resides. 10th house is your mother nurturing capabilities and qualities, your empathy, your understanding, your connectivity to humanity. The sign of Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon on the big scale is the public. The moon is the people. The moon is my tribe is my people. The moon in a really small, personal, private way is my family, my blood relatives, my siblings, my mom. Mom is a big one for Cancer in the moon. Mom is very prominent. The high ideals of that, the high ideals of what a mother does, what a mother looks like, the empathy, the caring, the understanding. Libra, if you have Cancer in your 10th house and Mercury's retrograding through there, all of this has been revisiting all these thoughts about family, all these ideas and all these thinkings about feminine qualities and energies, me being a mom, my ability to be or not to be, mom issues, my tribe, my history, my lineage, my past life family. Libra, this is for you. Number five. Number five is going to be all about the mid-month of July. Have Mercury going forward. Done with the retrograde. Now, Mercury has wings. Mercury is fast. Mercury flies through the air. Being in the Cancer waters, Mercury slows down, becomes sluggish. And in the waters, the wings get wet, so Mercury can't fly. Mercury is the information, the communications, our speech, our thinking. Mercury is very clear, very much about details. But in the waters, the waters can sometimes get blurry. The details lose their crispness. You lose your understanding of things. I even noticed for myself, talking, thinking, speaking has slowed. I'm not as articulate as I would like to be with my words and the flow. The speech patterns are changing because Mercury in waters, what happens in water? The flows of the water change, and so your communication, your thinking kind of changes along with that flow. Your feelings rush in because waters represent emotion. Now, this being in your 10th house for Libra Ascendant, Cancer waters, very driven, based goals on what you feel. And these feelings aren't simply, necessarily feelings of joy and excitement, because feelings are a wide range. But feelings in Cancer are more of feelings and things that give you an emotional security, a placement of sacred space within, a placement of sacred space without, meaning a job, a career, how you appear, how you show up in the world. There should be this divine feminine energy that exudes from you when you're dealing with people. When people look at you, when people talk to you in a professional manner, what comes through to them is this beauty, this divine elegance, this divine sensitivity that just flows right out literally from your fingertips. They can feel it. It comes through. Well, this is a big deal because we have a new moon, and the new moon is on the 20th of this month, but Mercury went direct on the 13th. So this gives your thinking not so much about the past, but now Mercury's released and it's going forward because it got to revalue, it got to re-look at, I should say, it got to review, it got to go over, it got to talk about, to think about, to get a rerun. A second glance at something that it didn't know before about family, about my past, about my history, about past life lineage, about people that we were connected to. And this all has so much to do with your goals and your ambitions. And you might not have realized it before, but how your goals and your ambitions were directly driven, not only just by your emotions, but they were fueled by the emotions of your ancestors. They were fueled by the passions, by their emotional securities. So now, Libra, guess what? You are having a birthday. Okay, and this birthday is super important for you because we have Mars going through your 7th house. This is point number 4. Mars going through your 7th house gives Mars a rebirth. And this, because it's in its sign of Aries. And so 2 years ago, I want you to think back. 2 years ago, Mars was in this spot, and it was about a significant one-on-one relationship. The 7th house is our partnerships, business or otherwise, but most definitely personal partnerships, so it can be marriage. When we think back 2 years ago, what new relationship began, right? What new relationship did you begin? What was happening? Because the 7th house also has a lot to do with how we appear to the public, how we appear when we're dealing with people in life, right? We go out, we talk to people, we have these one-on-ones, but typically it's I'm getting paid to deal with you one-on-one, 7th house placement. And so the 7th house Mars has gone around these last 2 years. It's had a lot of experiences, right? It went through Taurus, it went all the way around the zodiac, and now it's returned. And so when it's had all those experiences and it returns to this point 2 years later, it knows something now it didn't know then. And it's rejuvenated here because this is its sign. So your physicality, how you appear to the public, you appear stronger. Mars is about my desires, my passions. I go for it. I don't hesitate. This is what I want to do. There's bravery. There's courage. Mars is also the ego, the personality. Mars is also, I don't think enough sometimes. I act before I think. So we talked all last month of June about how Mars could spur our ego tendencies, could even bring up some of these ego qualities, traits, and personalities we weren't really aware of. And so we're going through a mastery of Mars because it's its birthday, and we want Mars to be reborn, but this time, Mars has all this knowledge it didn't have before. And in your 7th house, remember, this is going to be your significant one-on-one relationships, understanding how to navigate those in a different way. Because now, before, Libra, you are so much about this is what my partner wants. This is what so-and-so wants. And so now you're learning in these next 6 months, yes, what they want is important. But what's really important is for you to hone in more so, because it's difficult here. You've got Aries, Mars energy in the house of Libra, in the 7th house. So your drives, your passions, your desires, what you're going to go after is what your spouse wants. You're going to follow right along. Well, that's what they want, so that's what I want. And that's what happens here. However, there is an element of you, all right, because Aries is self. So there's something about self being reborn. There is something about, because our Chiron wound is here right now. Chiron is transiting here with Mars, which is good because it helps Mars. It helps to tame Mars a little bit. It says, hey, I want you to slow down. I don't want to get burned, all right? Because there's a wound here. And this wound is a soular wound, all right? SOUL-U-LAR. This is a wound that our soul has carried. And now there is a processing where this wound comes up. We look at it. We're okay with it. We learn to be more compassionate. We learn to embrace our Cancer energy. And yes, it's going to create tension and stress because Mars is in Aries, which is a cardinal sign, and the Cancer stuff is cardinal as well. And so like energies square, they create a 90-degree angle, a square, and it's tough. It's testing, it's stress, and tension. So your 7th house, your significant one-on-one relationships are squaring up directly with your 10th house, which is your ambitions, your goals, your career, which is what I talked about earlier. So the next 6 months, you're feeling this. But I want you to do something. And I think you might be doing it already because of the Chiron being there. Chiron is saying, we got to go slower. We have to be careful or we're going to get burned. We're taking our emotions of our 10th house and we're taking them down to a level where we realize if we put our emotions out there into something to the degree where we normally do, we're going to get in trouble. We're going to get hurt because this is our profession. This is our career. This is a time where we realize, okay, I know this is important to me, and I know that what I'm doing at the job doesn't line up with my emotional stability, with my sacred space, but I got to save that for when I'm alone. I've got to save that for in my home. This is the trick here. This is the trick for Libra Ascendant. That you're going to find there's things in the workplace, in the environment, in the career that don't jive with what you know to be true for you. Not just even for you. That's the cool thing. Very complex, first of all. So I'm gonna share that with you. I know you know this, but you're a very complex, a very deep individual because you understand what the individual needs for sacred space and for emotional stability, but you also know what the public needs. But the trick is you're in the workplace, and many times what the public needs, right, and what the workplace needs are two different things. Because typically the world we're living in now is power before people as opposed to people before the power. But that's what we're trying to achieve. The number 3 on the list, the new moon. So the new moon is on the 20th. Now this is at 28 degrees in Cancer, almost at a cardinal degree. I can't emphasize enough how this Cancer energy and what I need to set up and establish my sacred space for me, and how on the new moon on the 20th, there's also going to be a challenge to this because we have Cancer energy here with the moon and the sun, and then at the opposite end exactly is the planet Saturn. Well, Saturn is rules and restrictions. And that Cancer energy is this my emotions, my security, my sacred space. So this is like my responsibilities. Oh, but this is what you have to do. And Cancer energy says, but this is what I need so I feel safe and secure and stable. But what this means is that testing and that I'm being pulled this way and I'm being pulled this way is, okay, I can't do this right now. I have to, for my sanity, I have to step back and I have to take care of this. I have to take care of me. These are some things I've got to do for myself. Does that mean you have to share those with somebody? No, it just means to say, I have to take some me time. I have to take some quiet time. I have to do something that is going to feed me. You know, you may not know exactly what that is, or you maybe do know. And if you do, wonderful, do it. Do what you need to do. But this new moon is an emphasis on this. This new moon is don't forget about what you need to establish your emotional security. And sometimes for you, Libra, that is, well, I shouldn't say sometimes. It is remembering, well, I know how my emotional security, a big part of it is based on my 3D tangible security. So that will help you. That will help you reinforce something you've been learning and mastering, which is in that professional space, right? That's what this is, because it's like, okay, I so am driven to say something here, but if I want a roof over my head, if I want to keep, if I want to take care of myself, if I want to pay the rent, if I want to, do the things I want to do tangibly for my financial security, I know that I have to keep my feelings and my emotions separate from the workplace as best I can. And it's difficult, I know. Until you find the job, the career that allows you to express those emotions in a way where it's the best for humanity and for all involved, because that's really what I would love to see here. Ultimately, I would like, this is the way that energy expresses. It's got a very strong humanitarian vibe to it. It's the mother goddess energy. It is the divinity of the female divine coming through and saying, this is what we need. And so this is what I love for you. This is beautiful. Number two is at the end of the month, between the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th. We have a lot of interesting things going on. We've got some communication that's going to be rough, which means fighting, okay, which means tension, which means stress. Now, Libra, when I look at your chart, I can tell you who in your life, where it's coming from. When we look to the squares, the angles, the 90 degrees, we've got Mercury and Mars like doing that. Not good. Not good at all. So this is going to be happening in your career sector, and in your 7th house sector. So this is my profession and this is my significant one-on-one. There might be some combativeness. Things might have been going really smooth up until then, but at the end of the month, there's some friction, there's some tension, there's some testing. So I want you to just see this, that it's coming, and be like, okay, this is what G was talking about. I gotta like, you know, and I gotta just like let it roll off my back type of thing, right? And then once we pass through this and get to the beginning of August, we may be in some waters where we can think more clearly, because Mercury will then move out of Cancer. And at that time, when it moves out of the Cancer energies, it gets fire. It goes into Leo. And it says it's able to express what it's feeling. It is able to talk from its heart and get across what it needs to say. Okay, this is important because we don't want to be vindictive, we don't want to be hurtful, but at the same time, we need to be able to speak our piece. So, some other beautiful things. Number one, we have a sweet trine coming, folks. A sweet trine at the end of the month. Mercury and Neptune are going to trine each other. Now, for you, Libra Ascendant, your Mercury and your Neptune energy, this is in your 6th house. Okay, now your 6th house can also represent your workspace because it is your daily routines. So it's going to be Mercury and Neptune trining exactly. Now that trine only lasts for a few days, but what it does is it adds a beauty. It adds a beautiful element to the communication. So what it can do is help that combativeness of the Mercury and Mars stuff. But there also is another factor, which is Venus comes in. And Venus squares with Neptune at the same time. Now, a square normally is bad, but when Venus and Neptune square, what it does is it adds an element of illusional and delusional values and love of something. So whether you're shopping and you're like, oh, I want this, or whether someone comes to you and they start talking to you, and this is going to be, I can look this up for you, this is going to be by the ways of your belief systems, changing what you believe, harnessing a new value in your beliefs. Understand at the end of the month when this occurs, you want to wait a little bit. Okay, you want to wait until Venus rides a little bit further through that house. Okay, until Venus gets out of that location, because then when she gets away from Neptune, which will happen at the beginning of August, she'll think more realistically. Because when at the butt end of July, Venus is a little delusional. She's going to want to buy the things that she likes. She's going to want to, you know, when I say somebody new could come in, there could be somebody who's like a spiritual teacher, a guru, right? Something that comes through where it sounds too good to be true. It likely will be too good to be true, but it doesn't mean someone's lying. It just means that it's under the Neptune effect. And so this whole year, this whole last few years, but especially this year and the coming years, we are all, especially if we live in the States, under this veiled, this Neptune veil. And the Neptune veil, it's really challenging our independent critical thinking skills. And so many folks are saying, you know, I just have to believe and it will work. And yes, having faith and all that is great, but God gave you a brain, and God demands that you use the brain He gave you. And that's what the Neptune test is about. Are you using the brain that you were given? And Virgo, Libra Ascendant, you typically are, okay? You've got certain things. You've got, you know, Gemini in your 9th house, which is all about being analytical and higher knowledge, very intellectual. And you also have Sagittarian energy, the sign of the teacher, in the 3rd house of Gemini. So you've got some really strong points in regards to that. But chances are, this is the nugget you're going to walk away with, you're going to have that thinking power to make your new moon intention. And your new moon intention you're going to place on the 20th of July. Because on that day, you've got the sun and the moon together. Yes, Saturn is at the other end of them, but this is located in your 10th house. So what I want you to focus on is, what do you want to do for your career? How do you want to professionally show up in the world? I talked to this point a little bit earlier, but now is the time, because you've been doing so much thinking about it. This is the time. You've got the power behind you to place this intention. It's in your 10th house, Libra. It's in where you express your best. So on the 20th, set your intentions to figure out, to know what it is you want to do to professionally express your best.